Welcome to Byerly Studios, everybody. I am working on the Peregrine Falcon. I'm working with some just light level sculpting on the front feather textures across the breast area as well as down to the drumsticks. And we'll just kind of see how far we get. I'm only going to be alive for about 45 to an hour, and then I have to go do other things. So we'll see how things progress here. Let's go ahead and pull up the chat here just in case people want to pop in. Otherwise, this will be available to you after the fact on my channel. So we'll just have to see how things go. What does this say live? Give me just a minute, guys. I'm getting the settings set up here on my iPad, and I'll get to work. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Are you looking to get into sculpting? What kind of sculpting videos or techniques would you like to see? Of course, everybody's always learning and at different stages of their journey. And if I can help you, then I will. It doesn't show that I'm live. Yeah, I'll just run with it. It'll update in a minute. All right, let's see. Now this right here is a hard monster clay. This is medium monster clay here. So I've changed my clay out here because I want to make sure that as I get down to the feet, I don't bump this and remove all that texture that I've sculpted in. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and block in. Well, I've already blocked it in. I'm going to go ahead and start sculpting the shapes of those ruffles as it comes down the breast towards the drumsticks. And then as I kind of detail that out, I'll kind of add more layers in and more clay in as I see fit. So what I'll do is I'll kind of taper that clay right there. And then I'll come down to the next line and I'll taper again. Some of these feathers are pretty fine, and they kind of give that fluffy look towards the bottom of the bird there. It'll be like this almost all the way to the back of the bird. Continue that across the chest there. I don't want them to look too fluffy. I mean, depending on like the time of year, depends on how fluffy that feather texture is, I guess. But it's much harder clay than the medium. Takes a lot more elbow grease to get that clay removed there. I like it. I like it. My goal here is that when I go to add this into my crock pot is that it's going to mix with the medium, and then I'll just have a medium hard texture on the clay. So I get the best of both worlds. So there's one ruffle. I don't know why it doesn't say I'm alive. There we go. See how easily that right there peels away there? Like that peels away so easily. Like watch this. This is a medium. Right? There's the medium. Okay. And then here's the hard. Same pressure. A lot more elbow grease. There we go. Kind of blend that up a little bit right there. They're not perfectly level lines, so you can't have them perfectly level, like going like boom, boom. It's not a zebra. There we go. And those don't have to be super deep. They're just shallow, you know. They're shallow lines. You can also go across like that, all the way across. Remove that, and then we can just taper it like that. When you come in to taper that down, that lip right there is going to give texture below. I don't want a lot of overhang though, because technically we're going to be casting it out of latex, so you can't have a lot of undercuts because that's just going to be missed on the mold making process. Tighten that up there. You can see I do have a piece of parchment paper down here below, and I've got it kind of wrapped around the legs, or where the legs will be, so that I can kind of reduce the amount of mess that I make as I remove pieces of clay. There we go. I like that. I like it. I like it. I like it. I love the density of that hard clay. It's really good. It's going to take details a little bit differently, but it'll be nice. There we go, like that. So once I get one line of the texture onto these ruffles, then I can decide if I want to add more meat of clay in particular areas and kind of bulk it out a little bit more. It's all about layers, right? You got to build up those layers, decide how you like the way it looks, and then if you want to add more, you can. Remember, because we're sculpting this from just scratch and reference photos, so it's all your own design. There you go. I want to make some of those a little bit deeper. I have a feeling we'll probably have to add some more right here, some more meat right here, and that's okay. We'll get to that. We'll get to it. There we go. Try to make it to where the camera can see that a little bit right there. Although I am using that parchment paper, pieces do just kind of fly everywhere. That's the part of negative sculpting like that, where you're taking away, instead of positive sculpting where you're adding to it, you know, you're adding more clay too. I like that. That looks good right there. I might take a little bit more material off right there. Create another line right there. There'll be a lot of texture through there. I want it to be very detailed. Stated before, but I might state it again. Let me know in the comments below, what kind of sculptures are you guys working on? What you got going on in the studios? What kind of art are you making? I'd love to hear and see what kind of art other people are making out there. Are you working on some paintings? Are you working on sculpture, a diorama? Are you working on Warhammer? Let me know. All right, so this is why you use the hard clay for particular areas. So like, I'm just gonna take my thumb. All right, you see it's kind of smoothing it out a little bit, but it's very difficult. All right, I'm gonna go up to medium now. See how I wipe that out with the same pressure? It's so much denser. So if you're looking for a clay that's gonna hold the textures a lot better, then you want to go with the hard clay. But it is tougher to sculpt into, so you gotta take, you know, decide what kind of level that you need. I highly recommend, if anybody's ever making something like this where you're just kind of creating it from scratch in your own mind's eye, if you're using reference photos, use a ton of reference photos. Use an absolute ton of them. It's good to have like one that you're kind of leaning back on, but because we're making a sculpted item where you're making like not just the front of it, but you're making like the whole 360, you know, you're going around the back side, you're going around the lower tail feathers, you're doing the feet, the talons. There's a lot of layers there, and that requires you to pull from a lot of different reference photos. So although you can kind of say like, well, I want this area to look like a particular reference photo, then but that's okay. But then at the same time, you know, well, the next reference photo may show it a little bit differently. So then you just take what you want from the reference photos and then just sculpt it your own way. And now also what is allow us to use to really sculpt original pieces in your own mind's eye. You know, it's good to use reference photos. Everybody does, but don't rely on them so much that you're just replicating what they've made. Or what's in the picture, you know, so not what they've made, but... So if he does, again, if he doesn't look fluffy enough when I get these ruffles kind of like sculpted in with textures. So for instance, like on the back of him, we have all these amazing sculpted textures locked in here. And, you know, we have to finish up these lower feathers here and continue them onto the tips of the wings, as well as the actual tail feathers. We'll get to those. But what I've been working on recently is just bulking out those lower tail feathers around the back of the tail feathers there. And then once I get those bulked out there the way I like it, I can continue those tail feathers down. And that's why we have those pieces of armature wire down there. But I can't really do that until I really get happy with how this looks, because if I thicken this up too much, it will change the way that this looks here. So, because this needs to be blended down into the lower portion of the bird. We want him to look lean, but we don't want him to look we don't want him to look like a chicken. He ain't a chicken. I mean, they're all raptors, but we don't want him to look like a chicken. I do believe that one of my next projects is going to be probably a raven. I'm probably going to take this out of the latex mold, and before I break down this body, I'll probably reshape it, because I really want to make a raven on a cemetery gravestone. So I'll probably be doing that next, as far as the next big project. And it will be also casted and available on from my art studio too. So these are larger ticket items though, so just be aware that the creation time on these are excessively long sometimes. So we get the texture down to here, and then what we'll do is we'll sculpt in a little bit of detail work, just so that we can kind of make a really nice rounded live video here, and it's just not one segment, just me sculpting away texture or shaping. I can actually give you a little bit of detail work there, just a little bit. So let's go ahead and get this part right here knocked out. So here you can see I got like a seam line here where I like mushed this clay and then I mushed this one up like that. And you see a seam line right here. When you come in with your sculpting tools, you can sculpt that out there and then blend it into the other piece. It's like it never existed at all. Ooh, I pushed the entire sculpture. Heavens to Betsy. I don't want him to fall off. He is already attached to his stump that we've already sculpted in another video. So if you want to go back and watch me sculpt an amazing dead stump that is going to be the platform for this bird to sit on top of, then I highly recommend you go back and watch that. It's a pretty cool video. And we've already molded that out of latex and casted it out of Smooth-On Smooth Cast 300 fast set. There we go, I like that. Which that ruffling is going underneath the wings. It's got to be a seam line there underneath the wings. A little bit of that medium clay away. There we go. So up around the neck, there's very soft feathers here. Very, very fluffy, very soft. And then down below here, we have a little bit thicker, coarser feathers until it gets down to the legs, and where it's like kind of wispy and fluffy. And then those wings that are kind of like over the back of the wings and stuff, those are a little bit thicker textures because they're exposed more so to weather. So if it was perched in a nest, and it was like crouched down over, let's just say, some eggs in a nest, then those back wings feathers would be exposed, whereas these under feathers would be kind of like covered up, and they would provide warmth. So they're fluffier. Kind of like how homeless people will wrap themselves in like rolled up newspapers, you know, for that insulation. It's pretty cool how nature is. I do foresee me having to apply more bulking of clay over this, and that's fine. Make sure to get that out from under that wing there. There needs to be a crease under that wing. But I don't want it to be like jagged because the latex needs to fit in there and it needs to do its job. So the latex is gonna be really thick right here as it comes out around these segments here. We'll have to make some masks coming up soon. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe I'll make a Falcon mask or something, like a masquerade mask. That'd be kind of cool. My daughter's been wanting a unicorn mask, so maybe we'll get around to that. I've been putting that off for a long time because I've just been so busy. Just so busy. Take a little bit of that medium clay away. This isn't a medium to hard clay tutorial, but it is kind of cool to see some of those different sculpting intensities. We've been live for about 23 minutes now, and that's how long it's taken me to sculpt in these lines. Again, we don't want it to look like a zebra. It's not a zebra. So I think we're gonna stop right there for now, and I want to get an idea of how the texture looks above. Because if I get the texture down here and I need to add a lot right here, then there's no point in me sculpting that when I know I'm gonna add more clay. You know, I can just go ahead and hold off for a few minutes and decide how I'd like for that to look. Okay, so let's shift. Okay, now if you had the opportunity to check out the other video that I had released on sculpting feather texture, you may have seen a video of me using different tools. And one of my most favorite tools is the dental tool. Now, it's different when you're sculpting with hard clay as opposed to medium clay or soft clay. So if you were to order soft, I would keep it separate from your hard. But again, I'm gonna mix the medium and the hard into the crock pot, and it's gonna become just like a medium to hard grade. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and use this dental curve concave tool here to give nice lines here. But when you're sculpting this, you want to make sure that any kind of line, let's just say I put a line in here, okay? And I come down here and I'm sculpting, and I get to there. Do you want to keep that line going down, or do you want to dead end that lower texture over that? And that's what comes usually in the later processes. You kind of get like nitpicky over little areas here and there in the final stages. But right now at the stages where we're just going to start going over some of those bulked in sections, you just want to get texture in there and just see how you like the way it looks. If you've done this 1,000 times, of course, you probably already know how you want to do it. But so you can like leave the feather texture kind of shallow right there around that little gash. Or there's a little bit of latex there. We can go ahead and push this around like this and go ahead and push that up and then sculpt that into that upper feather clump right there. And this is very similar to what you would do when you're creating fur. So you can keep that up, and then we'll still say that goes underneath that upper feather tuft. And you can bring that down like that if you wanted to. And it creates a separation in feather. So this is a separate feather. Again, this is in medium clay, medium clay. So, all right. So there you can see it's just a little bit of texture. That's all it takes. And we've blended that little area in that we smoothed out there, and that's medium clay. So we'll continue this on down. Sometimes I like to sculpt the lower feather first. So we can come in here, we can go ahead and let's just say this is the hard clay here. Go ahead and sculpt in a little bit of the lower feather texture. Don't be afraid to bring that down over the lower feather. That's what I'm going to do here in a second. You can remove clay with this dental tool like that, scrape it away. You can push it around a little bit. I think we're still in medium clay here. It feels like medium clay. There it is. Okay. And then, so this upper feather hasn't been sculpted yet, but this lower portion kind of has, right? So then we're going to just take this and we're just going to pull it down. And you can pull it over that lower feather. Just like that. Kind of push that in a little bit. You can always come back in and remove some of that if you want to. And these little divot balls of clay. You can also push it into the clay below it just to create extra texture. You can also push. You can push and remove clay from that upper feather tuft. Like that. So you can do it again here, push. And you can kind of make it to where that feather is not truly symmetrical and straight across. Right? And then down here, it could get like kind of shallower because the feathers maybe thin out right there. Or you can thicken that up a little bit. You can thicken that line up again. And then push that down there. So now then we have a separation between the feather textures. Right? So you can do a lot of different things with just such a simple tool. And we'll come back in and we'll kind of change it a little bit if I feel like that it's drawing the eye too much in a particular area. Then we'll kind of come back and change it. So then I can take this line right here and I can roll it over a little bit. Again, we don't want to make those details super fine because technically the latex needs to be able to get a hold of those details. So, okay, you get it. Not bad, right? So let's work into some hard clay. And I got to leave in a few minutes, guys, so we'll go ahead and get it. So this is a hard clay here. You can really see there's a little bit of a wider texture here. It probably has more wax in it. I can't remember what makes it harder than the medium, but now it's taking the same detail a little bit different. You can see here. Now I'm using the wing here to brace my finger, so that's why I haven't sculpted that yet. I'm using that to brace my hand. So some areas just have not been sculpted in yet. You can sculpt in different directions here. And sometimes you just gotta take a break. I'm working very high, right? So I'm like, this is a very tall project here, very tall. So when you're working with this, I have it on a turntable, not my clay sculpting turntable, but like a kind of like a medicine tray turntable. I'm gonna be covering that in another video sometime soon. But look how this clay, this harder density clay is taking this detail work. It takes a lot more elbow grip to push that in. And it's actually taking finer details because it's so hard, it doesn't want to take that tool as much. There we go. Now remember, think sculpture. We want it to look like a sculpture. Because if I decide to cast this out of bronze in the future, I want somebody to understand that it's a sculpture and not something that's just like 3D printed, you know. I want it to feel like it has hand details into it. So there we have that little tuft right there, that little crease between the wing segment and the feather texture here. We have a little bit of separation there. Okay. That's good. And we'll eventually take that texture up the wing. Gotta stretch your arm. Oh, gotta stretch my arm. Let's continue down to this segment here. And we're really kind of blessed to it here now. Let me start working pretty fast. It does mean that I'll be pushing clay in probably areas that I don't want to push them, but that's completely fine for now. Right now, the name of the game is to get the texture on there, and then I can shape it. Some of these I'll come in and define particular larger feather segments later. Probably like some of these will be like actual feather shapes and stuff. So. Give me just a minute. Let's see. There we go, guys. So as you can see, I'm just working on my way across the chest there. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll start with a lower feather and then slowly work my way up towards the upper unrefined feathers. Um, it all depends. So like I said, I'll come back and I'll add a particular tufts of feathers in different areas where I just feel like it needs a little bit more definition. And a lot of these would be normally pretty soft in a realistic situation. So like the peregrine falcon, obviously, a lot of these birds, the under feathers will be very, very fine and very fluffy. If you were to feel them, you wouldn't be able to feel any of these textures, on a real feather. But because we're sculpting it and we're gonna make molds, like molding a cast of it, we need to make sure that we can capture those details. Otherwise, it'll just be a flat piece of clay, and in a clay situation, that would just be very abstract. Yeah, you could really smooth these out and make just the general shapes of feathers, but it would be very abstract. It would not look like a realistic sculpture in the long run when it's completely finished up. Now, if that's the look you're going for, then that's cool, and we can always come back later if somebody wants to order something like that, and I can make something like that. It's very so much faster to make something like that, but it's very abstract when it's all said and done. So there's a really strong refined line right here, right? Let's go ahead and texture that out real quick, and then I'll probably have to hop off of this live. I got some other things to do today. I just wanted to get a little bit of detail work in here for you guys on a live stream. I'm trying to challenge myself just to be more involved in the YouTube channel. And then hopefully here soon I can get truly monetized, and then I can invest even more monies and time into the channel. So we'll just have to see how things progress over time. Now you can see that this is actually hard clay right here. It's taking a little bit more effort to refine that feather texture out there. You can also push some of that texture down and then smooth it out if you want to get like a smooth blended line. And a lot of these situations is you'd probably have to add a little bit more clay there or continue pulling it around until you get the desired effect. So let's go ahead and do this side. We'll pull this down here. Pulling that down there. And it kind of fades right there. So we can go ahead and make it almost like it was non-existent right there. And I might come back in and remove a little bit of little divots of clay here and there. Like, I could remove, say, like that right there. Just like that. And then I can, add like a little dividing line between the tufts of feather texture there. So you can always do that as well. Let me know in the comments below again, guys. What kind of projects are you working on? What kind of art mediums are you into right now? Let me know what you'd like to see in the future. If I have time, then I can always cover side videos and side content. I do have a lot of stuff planned out already. But of course, if you're a member, then I'll try to do my best to kind of cover particular things for members, specifically, just because you're paying for the membership. I want to try to help you as much as I can. So if I can make like a small live tutorial to help you out with your project or something like that, or I'm always trying to help people out. So just let me know in the description below, or the comments below, the comments below, what kind of projects you're working on and what you would like to see more of. Let me know what you think about the Peregrine Falcon. I mean, I know I still got a little bit of long ways to go on it, but we are in some of the fun stages now where we're really getting some of those details locked out there. And it's really turning out great. Looking pretty good. Now, as you can see, there's a significant difference in the textures here. Just in the lighting here, if I turn it towards the light here, you can see that this right here is your medium clay. It's a lot like more caramel colored in this lower portion because a lot more wax content. It does have a little bit chalkier, paled out look to it. I'm not going to cover too much on the actual packaging of the hard clay right now. It did have, well, I'll just say it had a lot of wax in the middle of the container that was pure wax. So I actually had to heat up the entire container and mix it to get it to really mix out in like the actual like wax into the clay and surrounding areas of the other mediums. of the material. But once I did that, then it was absolutely fine. But it had a lot of wax content built up in the middle. But as you can see here, it does take clay details a little bit differently, but of course they are going to hold a lot more steadily as we get into those finer recessed areas of the Falcon, where we could easily, like, oop, I bumped it, oop, I bumped it, you know. So we want to make sure that we can kind of save those details, so we're continuously going back and having to fix things over and over and over again. We don't want to keep doing that. It's just wasted time and wasted resources. And time is your most valuable resource as an artist, remember. So you got personal life, you got your other things, you got to make time to do a little bit of everything. And big projects like this take absolutely forever, but it is worth it. If you enjoy the process and you have amazing customers like I do, then it's a really fun process when you're able to deal with wonderful patrons of your artwork. So again, I appreciate you guys. I will catch you on the next video. I'm releasing a few sculpting videos here in the near future about this project. And of course, if it's later on down the road and this project is completely finished out, you can find that under its own individual playlist, and you can find all sorts of fun sculpting and processes, as well as diorama portions of that project, you know, casting and mold making and just fun stuff. What do you think, guys? I think it's looking pretty good so far. Again, we'll do a little bit more refinement here. I think it's a little bit flat right there, but we'll see how it looks over the next few days. I'll catch you guys on the next awesome video from Byerly Studios. Later. Coffee.